we choose our sacrifices. It's something that I heard Jordan Peterson say the other day that it just was like a light bulb going off in my head, because if there's one thing I love the most, it's finding people who found a way to say what I've already been saying, but better than I was saying it. Like, I love coming across people who are talking about exactly the same thing I'm talking about, but they found a better, more eloquent way to articulate, to say whatever it is. I love that so much. And so the other day when I heard Jordan Peterson talking about how we choose our sacrifices, I was like, that's exactly what I've been talking about with my loved ones recently when it comes to my life for the last 2 years. I was choosing my sacrifices, because what I've been talking about for the last 2 years, or what I've been talking about for the last couple of months with my loved ones about the last 2 years, has been exactly that. Only I was calling it choosing my challenges or choosing my obstacles. And that's what I want to talk about today. First of all, hello, and welcome back to another video. Welcome to my channel. I am Anne Blackwood, your Silicon Valley Sage Sister, here to bring consciousness to the forefront of your daily life to make life a little kinder and simpler. Now, we do this all the time without even realizing it. All the time we are making choices, and how we choose to make those choices. Are we trying to move towards our joy versus moving away from whatever we think would cause more suffering? Because those are usually the two ways in which we, whether we realize it or not, are making our choices. Is either going towards our joy or going away from what we think would cause more suffering. And so I found myself in this position a lot more than usual over the last 2 years, where, first of all, 2 years ago in I want to say, well, I don't want to say, I know. It was December of 2019, and I've talked about this a little bit. That was the first one that I can think of when it comes to this, where I asked myself, I could, now that I've lost my part-time job, which was about a third of my income at the time, I could try to find another job, or I could try tackling building an online presence and even advertising myself more in person. That was what I was presented with. Find another part-time job, go 100% full-time and nothing but that with my practice. Another one was, once I came online, do I want to sacrifice my morals for faster growth, or do I want to keep integrity, keep the integrity, keep my integrity of knowing that I'm sticking with my morals, but grow a little slower, possibly. The one after that was, do I want to follow these mandates and these regulations and keep working with the kids after school twice a week? Or do I want to possibly have to sacrifice some other things while just relying on my online practice for my income? And we all know what that regulation mandate was. Welcome to Commie, California, if you don't live in California. It was the school districts specifically. But, I decided that I would rather know that I stood my ground and didn't give in, even if it meant I had to move out. And I love this place. Like, my life, although at that point I didn't have a home office yet, but at that point my life was everything I had ever manifested for myself, with the exception of one thing, which is that I am eventually gonna live in a house down the street. I'm gonna buy that someday soon. Mark my words. But other than that, everything was exactly how I'd ever wanted it to be. And so at that point, standing my ground, even though it might mean having to move in with my significant other's mom, have to move out of the state, have to move into a little hovel that's not worth its weight in crap. To me, that seemed like less suffering than meeting their requirements for me to work on school campus. And then I lost my roommate, and I was presented with another challenge, another obstacle. Do I try to find another part-time job? Do I try to keep my roommate? Do I rent out the room? Which I guess technically we can't do that, so that wouldn't have been an option anyway. But and then I lost another. And then I lost my roommate. And even more, the idea of possibly having to move out became a reality. But now I had this whole room to myself as my office, my home office. All of a sudden, other than living in that house down the street, everything I'd ever wanted was exactly the way I wanted it. And yet, at the same time, it was becoming more and more difficult to appreciate it because it felt like it could have possibly been ripped out from under me at any moment. Sometimes it still feels that way. But what I started to recognize more and more and more and more was that we choose our sacrifices, we choose our challenges, we choose our obstacles, and that I had chosen this. I decided that living with that other person was worse than possibly having to move out or possibly having to figure out how to make up that rent. I decided it would be worse to do what they were mandating than figure out some other income. I decided, you notice that a lot of this has been about money in the last 2 years for me, I'll be honest. I decided that it would be more suffering for me to have to go work at a grocery store than it would be to figure out what the requirements were that I was going to need to fulfill to build my business online. What were those learnings? What were those teachings? What was that knowledge? What was that grind going to be? I decided, I chose this. And I think that this is something that escapes a lot of people when they find themselves in a position having a pity party of, oh, woe is me, why is this happening? Even I joke about the fact that there was that meme about, like, I don't want to do the things that don't kill me and make me stronger anymore. You know, I felt that. It's very rare that I ever feel that anymore. I used to feel that more when I was like a teenager or a young adult. I haven't felt that in probably the better part of 10 years. But, you know, I felt that once recently. That feeling of, yeah, I get it. Smooth seas don't create strong sailors, but I'm done being strong for now. I'm strong enough for now. Please, let's go back to making things easy again for a little while. I've been there. And the moment I realized that I was experiencing that, I snapped myself out of it and said, hey, this is your choice. Not only did you choose to be here rather than somewhere else, somebody else. Can't choose to be somebody else. But not only did I choose to be here rather than somewhere else, I chose these particular challenges over others. I chose these particular pains over others. And it is my choice as to whether or not they're going to cause suffering. When we can realize this, when we can recognize this, life changes. I had to realize at some point that I was better off with clients that were ready and waiting for the clients that were ready rather than just taking on anybody. Because there was a certain point, and I'm glad I learned this early on in 2020, where I had a client who thought she was ready, but wasn't. She wasn't ready to actually do the things she needed to do to change her life. She wanted to vent. She was ready for a little bit of healing, but she really wasn't ready to do the things. And that taught me a lot. And I had never had a client that wasn't ready before. Before that, all of the people that I had coming to me in person were word of mouth and had found my flyers at the local bookstore. So they were all ready because they all approached me. This client that I had at the beginning of 2020 was like one of the few people that like I actually talked to that didn't come directly to me already knowing what I did. I mean, we struck up a conversation and it came up what I did, but I initiated it. And that was when I learned that it is my, how do I want to put this? It is important for me to work with clients that know they're ready, because otherwise, just like I felt in the past, other people that have worked with me could feel ripped off. And I don't want, to the best of my ability of what I can control, ever feel like because of something I did, someone felt ripped off by me. So I realized that was the time to let this client go. This was the time to let her fade away. And, you know, when she was ready, she could come back. Because at the end of the day, I was taking money from her and she wasn't seeing results. Not because of anything I was doing or not doing, but because she wasn't ready to use the tools. There's nothing I can do about that. It has nothing to do with me. It says nothing about me. But I had to recognize that this wasn't my failing. This was her just not being ready. And it taught me that I want to work with people who are ready. Because when they're not ready, it ends up feeling kind of useless. Kind of like a waste of time. You know, it can be good. She got some healing out of it. She got some venting out of it. You know, I didn't rip her off by any means. But when we parted, it was time for us to part. Because she wasn't ready to do any more than what we did. And that's okay. We make these decisions. We come to these points in life where we make these decisions. And it's important to recognize that not only are there going to be these points in life, these points of obstacles, these points of pain, but that they're of our making and our choosing. And that we can choose for them to cause suffering or not. We can't choose whether or not they're painful. We can't choose whether or not there are obstacles in our life, because they're gonna come. They're coming. No matter what we do, no matter how much we try to prepare, We are going to have these moments in our lives where we have to choose which sacrifice we are going to make. And if anything, my advice would be follow your joy. Follow your joy. There is not a single moment of the last 2 years that I regret. And it's been kind of rocky, to be perfectly honest. It has been kind of rocky, but you know what? I wouldn't trade it for anything in the world. I am so grateful that I have been able to devote the last 2 years of my life to nothing but my spiritual practice and my holistic health practice. Not only growing myself, but getting to serve others and help them with their growth, expansion, and healing. I wouldn't trade it for anything in the world. So, the next time you find yourself in a position where you're having a little bit of a pity party, you're a little stressed, ask yourself, what did I choose to not do that would have been even worse than this? Because I know right now I would be miserable if I was working at a grocery store. No shade on anybody who works at grocery stores. It's just not me. It's not my purpose. I've done it before. I've worked all sorts of places before. It's not what's in alignment for me at this moment. And that's not to say that there won't be another point in my life where it is in alignment for me to work at a grocery store. But right now, that is not my purpose. That wouldn't be me fulfilling my purpose. And as they say, I just forgot the word. Calm seas. There we go. Calm seas don't create strong sailors. You know? Looking back on it, one of the reasons why I am grateful for even the weird rocky stuff that's gone on for the last 2 years is because I see how it's made me better. Better personally, better as a teacher, coach, mentor, better all around. And I would much rather have gone through everything that I went through exactly the way it happened in the last 2 years than being stuck at a plateau and doing the exact same things for the last 2 years. You know? It would have been nice to keep some of that security, but sometimes that's the sacrifice. Giving up the security to follow your joy. And it's funny because I was just talking about this yesterday with somebody. Sometimes when we can recognize it, not even sometimes, when we recognize that when we are of service, when we are fulfilling the law of abundance and giving without the expectation of receiving, that is when we receive. When we are mindful in the sense of, scratch that. When we follow our purpose and are service-minded first, everything else comes to you naturally. I was just talking about this with someone the other day when it came to the Ascended Masters. When we allow ourselves to be concerned with not what I will get out of this, but what can I give, and how can I give? How can I be of service right now? All of those other things will be taken care of. I'm still here. I'm still in my home office. And though every once in a while I get this human fear that it could get ripped out from under me, I remember that as long as I continue to live my purpose, as long as I continue to be service-minded first, everything else, as it already has, will fall into place, and I will be a natural recipient of the flow of abundance. And so far, I can't say that that's wrong. My human mind sometimes wants to doubt it. I was just playing the devil's advocate yesterday, saying, well, if people hadn't given Jesus all that stuff for free, he wouldn't have been able to go around teaching and talking. We have these conversations sometimes where we play the devil's advocate on either side, no matter what we believe in. It's fun. And so I was saying, the reason why Jesus was able to do what he did was because all of his needs were taken care of. He was given that stuff for free. He was given places to stay for free. So of course he was able to go around teaching people because all of his needs were met. But that's how the universe works. When you concern yourself with being of service first and don't worry about how the other things are going to come to you, that is when they come to you the most easily and the most naturally. And I am grateful to have learned that lesson before I could cause any suffering by choosing another path, another obstacle. And there have been some moments, I will totally admit that there have been some moments where I have been on the phone with my mom crying because I was worried. And I am so grateful that even in those moments, I was completely aware of the fact that I was choosing this. I was choosing this. I was choosing this pain. I was choosing this suffering. I was choosing this worry. And I was grateful for it because the other options were worse. And this option that I chose was ultimately following my joy. And I will never sit here and tell you that you will be able to make things so amazing for yourself that you will never experience any other pain or any other suffering or any other obstacle ever again. That would be silly. But what I can say is that we can build things to a point where we experience them less and less and less and less and less. And that things do get easier and easier and easier and easier. And look at this. I have gone from a high school dropout who was a drug addict to going back to school, getting a car, building up some savings, taking over the rent, and having this beautiful place all to myself so that now I even have my home office. I have my spiritual practice. I have everything I could ever have possibly wanted, both physically and spiritually. I get to spend every day of my life studying the spiritual teachings and offering my holistic health services to others. That's all I do with my life. I couldn't ask for more. I mean, I could, but I don't want more. I mean, I'm sure there's something else I'll want eventually, but for now, right now, I've got exactly what I need. I've got exactly what I need. I've got exactly what I need. And I'm so grateful. Because I've also got exactly what I want. Every last one of my manifestations has come true. And it's mind-blowing. It's mind-blowing. Everything, including those pillows. Like, that was something. Like, I wanted a bunch of pillows. I wanted to have, like, some sort of bed on the floor with pillows. Like, that I'm sitting in it, and it's part of my home office, and so many things. I could go on and on about how everything I've ever wanted is literally, I'm surrounded with it. And I get to spend my life, every day of my life, studying what I want to study and doing what I want to do. And it's amazing. All because I recognize the fact that we choose our sacrifices. And when we can recognize that, we can start to recognize that even when we aren't completely capable of removing all suffering from our lives, we are capable of suffering less and less and less and less and less, to the point where eventually life is mostly joy. Like 95% joy. And like the occasional pain. It's amazing. All right, guys, this went a little longer than I expected. Thank you for joining me for another video. Thank you for being on this journey with me. Don't forget to subscribe if you haven't already. I'm still trying to get those custom URLs. So don't forget to share. If you're enjoying my videos, share the videos of mine that you enjoy, because that's the only way I'm going to get that custom URL that I want. You know, I don't really care about how many subscribers I have, but I would like to be able to tell people to go to youtube.com/balanceblackwood rather than youtube.com/randomly generated blah, blah, blah. Like, I'd like to be able to do that. And unfortunately, YouTube tells me that in order to do that, I have to have a certain amount of subscribers. So don't forget to subscribe. Don't forget to share, like button stuff. Check out the links in the description. If you are ready to heal, grow, and expand your consciousness and end the cycles of suffering in your life, I would love to have you. I do have spots available right now for one-on-one clients. And if you have any questions, you can email me or sign up for one of my free clarity calls. Or if you really know you're ready, you can sign up for one of my session packages. That is what I have available right now as far as session packages go. That commits you to a certain amount of sessions, and then we figure out how often we work together and what to work on, all personalized, customized to you. If you sign up for one of my session packages, you also get a little free goodie that's been added. There is a free custom oil blend made with dōTERRA essential oils. And there's also, for those who commit to 24 sessions, pay in full, you get your very own custom-made Mountain Bound book, which is a blank journal made by an amazingly beautiful woman that I am so grateful to be partners with in business. And she makes the best, most beautiful, handmade, sustainable, clean, green, spellbound blank books. It's $150 value. It's priceless, really. But you get 3 sessions with her to customize your book, your journal, as well as the 24 sessions with me when you pay in full for the 24 sessions. All sorts of other links in the description. Definitely go check it out. I just did my bi-monthly energy update that I did post on Patreon and YouTube this month. But this will probably be the last time that I post a bi-monthly energy update on YouTube, because they are usually exclusive to Patreon. If you enjoyed it, or if you haven't seen it yet, definitely check it out. And go check out all the other free bi-monthly energy updates that I have on Patreon. I really spend the time to make sure that they are, or I shouldn't say spend the time, because I don't plan them out beforehand. what I should say is I am very mindful to make them so that they are timeless, so that they are, even if they are technically energy updates, they are useful to anyone, no matter what time and space you're in at all. And, of course, as always, may the energies you serve you well, and let's keep making our way through.